How's it going, everyone? And we're back at full staff today on No Excuses at VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, are still
Fenarian.
And Wallace L, back from the frozen wastes of the south. We're
Yes,
here to bring you the
indeed.
latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. But if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in the Discord server, which you can easily access by clicking on the link that will be provided in the show description underneath the YouTube show archive. And that's the easiest place where you can talk to the show hosts and other listeners to the show and post spicy memes and, get triggered by our politics board. You should probably stay away from there if you're easily offended.
Yeah,
Or even not so easily offended, but capable of being offended.
there's nothing good to be gained from going in there. Just don't.
I think there's a lot of entertainment to be gained from getting in there.
Well, yes.
About at least once a week, I have a Spurg out and just dump my collection of stuff I found for the week.
Oh, we've noticed.
I liked the Mandalorian one. I thought that was really funny.
I laughed my butt off when I saw that one.
Good grief. Still haven't forgiven you for that shirt, by the way.
I suppose I can inflict that on the politics board
Please,
if you
I think
want
we
me
need to spread this pain. So yeah, on the stream today, I'm finally doing something I've been meaning to do again for a bit, and that's play Final Fantasy. I haven't actually played it since I last did.
Oh, that shirt!
Yeah. And yeah, I know that was the worst sentence ever constructed, but shush. So now I need to remember exactly where I am at the story, and where on earth these people are, and how do I get up there? It's such... This town it's nice, it's very pretty, it actually looks like a town, but yeah, getting up onto some of those bridges is just unnecessarily painful. Just, why not just have stairs there? Why make me go all the way around? Anywho, I'm just going to chip away at this, and hopefully it doesn't demand I go do a dungeon in the next 5 minutes.
I'm always scared to go on the roulette when I've come back after a break because I'm afraid that I'd do something autistic as soon as I get in there.
Yeah, like last time, they deliberately called you autistic.
No, it wasn't me.
No, they called me autistic
Oh, they
because
called
I overdid
Ari
the
autistic.
mechanics.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually,
You're supposed to tag orbs in a sort of measured way, but Ari was a bit too efficient.
because I did exactly what Vol and the video said.
Yeah. So the aim for an MMO or MMO dungeon is do your job well, but not too well.
I assume there was a measured pace you were supposed to do it that was conveyed somewhere deeper in the video, or the community adapted to it over time, and I was just not present for it.
Yeah.
Learn to share Aristeal.
You gotta share your balls.
Oh my.
Oh my.
I'll share my balls all over that group. And
Oh
autistic,
my. Okay.
That
I
autistic Colin, whatever he was.
regret everything.
I'm glad
So-
we aren't attempting to be monetized.
Yes. So, we'll dive straight into weeks, and boy, what a week it's been. So yeah, it was Drunk Cowboys Prime this week. I'm glad that's over. Thankfully, they've actually managed to keep a bulk of the Drunk Cowboys out of town itself, so the damage has been minimal. I did see at least one group walking around with a giveaway sign. I have no idea where they stole that from.
Presumably an intersection.
Presumably, yes. I don't know how they got it up, because usually those things are anchored pretty deep, and they're heavy as all get out once you get them out.
I've seen people on the street removing them.
Yeah. You get enough guys just levering them, and you can remove them.
Yeah, you swing them back and forth. A couple of people is enough if you've got enough will and enough alcohol.
Yes, and soft enough dirt.
Well, I mean, the way councils in New Zealand, local councils in New Zealand maintain things, that's not a challenge.
That is probably not. No. Dirt out here, though, is also known as concrete. So you got to put some effort into it.
Well, I'm talking about asphalt specifically, so.
Yeah. Not as hard as it looks, asphalt.
Well, it's supposed to be durable to sort of shearing stresses
Yes.
over time. It's not supposed to be hard.
Hmm. I've been betrayed by a weird fish thingy. I probably should have seen that coming. Is Lise going to punt him? Punt him, Lise. Hunt him.
I cannot work out how to get onto my
Yes!
station. It's not working for me. I just typed my password in. Come on, guys.
I don't even remember what my password is for
See,
Mod Station.
this is why I love Final Fantasy 14 sometimes, is you get scenes like that where Lise just styles on a weird little fish thing.
Man,
He totally had it coming.
I can't work up the energy. I'd have to go through Mog Station.
Right, I managed to
Yeah.
get into Mog Station. Now I just have to work out how to add a subscription.
Yeah, good luck with
No.
that. We'll see you in half an hour.
Just
Steam
not even
version is. I've got just the Steam version. That's different from the other version, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because things can't be simple.
Yeah,
That would
standalone,
just
you
be
can,
silly.
at least with the Steam version, you can link your payments through Steam. And that way, later on, if you need to cancel it, you can actually cancel it via Steam.
I see.
But- Yeah, if you're not using that, then, yeah, good luck.
So is it going to pull from my Steam wallet or?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Well, I've got money in my Steam wallet for some reason.
Eh.
Playing that trading card market.
Incidentally, since
The dead trading card market.
since I started upgrading my machinist abilities into their second tier versions, my character jumps around a lot more. Instead of just standing around and going pew pew pew, he's flippity floppying all over the place. It's actually kind of great.
There's still no reason to take the standard subscription.
No, if you're only going to play one character, you don't need it.
Yeah, I don't really understand the enthusiasms a lot of people seem to have for alts in Final Fantasy. Like once I get attached to my character, I just don't see the reason.
Yeah, like I can see one alt as a mule, but that's about it. You don't really need alts unless you want to go and replay the story again, like from the start.
Well, you can just use New Game Plus. I mean,
Yeah, you can. Just
it
go
doesn't
and,
really.
and play it that way.
Oh my goodness, this thing is like from 20 years ago. This interface.
It really is. And considering, I think they did upgrade it at one point from its original state, it says a lot. Ooh, this is new. Oh, I gotta fight these guys, do I? Wait, what am I doing? Oh, okay. Bamf. Said Bamf.
It looks so shady that if I didn't know it was trustworthy, I wouldn't trust it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's... I'm just going to keep picking at this. I don't know where I'm supposed to be going. I assume I'm supposed to just avoid the samurai. Because I wasn't really paying too much attention. Lisa's still carrying that fish thingy. Anyhow, let us dive into weeks. Yeah, it's been, aside from Drunk Cowboy Palooza,
It's always Drunk Cowboy Palooza for you, though.
This is
Yeah.
like the Drunk Cowboy Palooza.
this is the Drunk Cowboy Palooza. There's one big weekend every year that is like prime Drunk Cowboys. And then there's secondary ones. Just taking the wrong route here, but who cares? I'm going this way now. Did still have some time to do some nerdy stuff between that and, you know, basically rebuilding my bedroom. Literally. That's been a project that's been a long time coming. Yeah, we'll start
Based on recent suspicious activity, we have identified that your account may potentially be at risk. For your protection, we have temporarily suspended login access. That's not good.
How many times did you try and log in?
None. That was literally the first time I tried to log in on Logstation.
I
Do you
see.
have an authenticator?
No. I
Oh.
play this game so infrequently, I don't have one.
Really?
Oh, well, there
That's
you have it then.
that's kind of
You're going to have to get used to the fact that your account will be flagged as suspicious activity if you don't have an authenticator attached to it, because
Yeah.
you'll be regarded as a soft target.
it's gonna happen. The game I played this week was Starbase. Don't play it. It's a brand new early access game, and I'm really going to say don't play it.
That's a surprisingly categorical statement from you.
Yeah. The ideas behind it are pretty cool. You get to basically build yourself a ship, a spaceship, and a space station right from the get-go, right from the ground up. And that includes bolts and all. You have to design this thing. Which is going to take you hours upon hours to do when the servers actually work, because, you know, early access. But yeah, once you've actually got your ship, if you aren't a masochist, you can just, you know, harvest up some resources and go buy one. But if your ship gets damaged, that's it. You have to rebuild it, bolt by bolt, without the advanced planing tools. You have to do it by hand. So yeah.
What?
Yeah. So you can, in theory, just place building pieces out into the world and then manually move them into place and bolt them and build your ship that way, if you're an absolute crazy person. There is a design studio which, you know, gives you actual proper tools to design a ship. Also, I just got rescued by a Ninja Turtle.
So, basically, when you take damage and, like, some bits smash off your ship, you have to pick them up and put them back.
Yes. You do get a tool which lets you reconstruct missing parts from base materials, but it does not replace cables or ducts or bolts. So if you bolt something, you recreate something in place, it's perfectly in place, but if you don't manually bolt it and just jump in your ship and fly away, you're going to leave that piece behind.
This doesn't actually sound like fun.
No, it sounds like just some massive autism simulator for people who want to build spaceships with excruciating detail.
I mean, there's definitely a market for that.
There certainly is. And what people have actually created in it is damn impressive, especially after I played with the tools and realized just how finicky they can be. Like sometimes there will be a structural component where it thinks it doesn't have enough support or it's not got enough bolts in it. And no matter how many bolts you stick into it or how many parallel beams you attach, it just still doesn't want to recognize it. That's if it recognizes that your ship is in fact ship-shaped at some point.
Are you trying to say you can't build the Borg cube?
You can, but yeah, good luck with that. So yeah, don't play it. Maybe give it a few months and see what it does, I guess. And that's basically been the bulk of my gaming.
I mean, it's got a mostly positive.
Mostly positive. When they first launched, they had a lot of bugs. Like, a lot of bugs. Things like, there's an easy build ship area, which uses just very large modular parts. The ship you'll build with those will look dreadful, no matter what you do. But it'll function. And it's very simple to use. But at one point, if you bought a ship from a market, or even designed and built one yourself, and just took it anywhere near that easy build area, it would do things like rename all your thrusters so your coding doesn't work. By the way, you'd actually need to code your ship as well. Or it would just permanently stop you from being able to actually interact with your ship. So
This guy's given it he's given it a not recommended with 110 hours.
Yeah, I think that's going to be what you're going to see a lot of. Like you start off thinking, okay, this is great. I've bought a ship and it's fun to fly around, and I just crashed into an asteroid, but that's okay. But But the more you play, the more you realize I should not be playing this game. Life is too short.
Yeah, it sounds like most of the complaints seem to be focused on it requiring a ridiculous amount of nonsensical grind for certain unlocks and extraordinarily poor documentation.
Oh my, yes.
And the snapping system not functioning as a snapping system.
No, it just tends to snap however it feels like. There's
I
also
can't even handle the snapping system in Minecraft.
Oh, jeez. There's other things like there is an actual navigation system. Like, the game is built without one inherently in it. So some absolute mad lad externally coded a website to map the location of your ship by triangulating its location based on major landmarks, namely the space stations. And then you can write a code line into your flight computer to connect to this website, and that's how you actually get your navigation.
I mean, this really does sound like something that there's definitely an audience for it.
Yes.
People who are this pedantic and
Yes.
this obsessive over controlling every aspect of their game, but in order for that to be a reasonable experience, it actually all has to work.
It has to all work, and it has to make sense. Yeah, okay, it makes sense that bolts hold your ship together, but yes, you can only put so many bolts into something before you can determine that this thing is not moving. But the game doesn't hear that. It just says, I don't know, gravity, I guess? I don't know. Yeah, gravity in space. Yes. Yeah, there is definitely a market for it. I did play it with a group of friends, and we did have some fun with it for a while. We also discovered if a ship is bugging out, do not approach it. Because
Watching
you
it roll
will...
over and land on you.
Yeah, inevitably there will be a collision. Especially if I'm driving it, apparently. Yeah.
Bubble Knock Station.
Yeah.
That's probably just gravity.
That's probably just gravity. So, yeah, I think I'll just stay with, something like Avorion, where you can build your own ships, but by and large it's place block here, ship go burr. As for anything else, did watch a bit of Animus. The new season is getting well underway now, which includes some OVAs for Food Wars.
Yeah, I saw one had gone up, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, when I looked yesterday, there was 2, episode 1 and episode 3.
Are they sequential or standalone?
They're standalone.
Right.
The episode 1, I think, is set in the first season, and episode 3 is maybe 4th season? At least the first one. It was basically follows the Ardini brothers around for a day. Just after the big rivalry kind of kicks up between Soma and Takumi. It basically involves Takumi running around and just yelling at things thinking they're Soma. He kind of loses it a bit. At least that episode, though, involves cooking. The second one is Irina loses a fight to a washing machine, and then they spend like 20 minutes in an onsen.
Well, I mean, that's usually what OVAs are for.
Yes. And
Have you forgotten the Slime Time OVAs?
The episode literally called Hey Butts.
Yes,
And it is basically an
about
episode about butts.
I mean, basically, that's what the OVAs are for. They're for the content that was just so mindlessly spicy that it didn't really have a place in the series, but
Yes.
they know it's going to be good promotional material.
Yeah, it's like, how many Dakimakras can we sell from this? From that Food Wars OVA, all of them. Oh, good grief. I really should pay a bit more attention to the Final Fantasy XIV story. Because, yeah, every now and again, Tataro just appears out of nowhere.
Okay.
But anyway.
Burst the blood vessel at this freaking Mog station.
I made it through. I'm in the updating process now.
It won't take my security questions, and I know the answers are correct.
What is the syntax correct?
Yes. Oh, it's just making me mad. I need to close this.
Yeah. The other anime I really did sit down and watch was Tower of God. Finally did that.
Yeah, I had a friend who was really into the original material, but I've never watched the actual animation.
It takes a moment because it uses a very unique kind of visual style. Everything looks kind of a bit hand drawn and a little bit washed out. But once you get used to that, it's a ride. I am really kind of annoyed because it's only the first season and it's kind of the training arc, I guess you could call it. But yeah,
It's not one of those in-house Crunchyroll ones, is it?
I think it is actually.
That
Yeah.
means you can't ever guarantee you're going to get any more.
Yeah, it's probably just going to disappear into a hole. Even though,
Unfortunately, High Guardian Spice is still there for you.
They confirmed it's coming. No release date still, but they said it's coming.
yeah, the thing
they've
is
been releasing
when
tons of
Tower of
promo
God
material for
launched. Oh, let's not. Yeah, when Tower of God launched, it was kind of the hype series for that season. One of. So unless Crunchyroll hates money, which I think we've already established that yes they do, then the rest of the content should probably be coming. Eventually. Why does Crunchyroll hate money so much, honestly?
Well, there are just things that are more important to them.
Yeah. They're certainly not spending any of their time fixing their app.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm incredibly salty about Funimation buying Anime Lab, because now I have to use the Funimation app instead of the Anime Lab one, and it's strictly inferior in all but one respect.
I was thinking actually at that point if they just snapped up Anime Lab just so they have, a really good app.
There is one thing about the Funimation app that is good, and that's that when you are scrubbing through a video looking for a particular place, it has screen caps of where you are as you move along, so you can sort of see roughly where you're up to.
Which is handy when the app bugs out and loses your place.
Which happens all the freaking time.
Yes.
Not to mention you can barely navigate the thing. Like, it is, in terms of just strict navigation, it's even worse than Crunchyroll. It's just incoherent, made by somebody who just obviously doesn't care. You can see it. It screams, I don't really care how usable this is. It's just, oh well, we've got to do an app to check off the has an app box.
Yeah. The Crunchyroll one works, but it does things like every now and again it'll just randomly decide that no, I'm not going to connect anymore.
I've been having a lot of trouble with Crunchyroll's service lately as well. It's been very spotty.
Yeah.
I would rather not use any of them. I would rather give my money to a company that was actually good, but unfortunately one doesn't exist anymore.
Because they got
Let
bought
me
out.
tell you about a guy named Bob.
I don't have the hard drive space for that.
Bob has his own issues.
Because I have to download everything if I raise the black flag. Because the streaming services just don't seem to work for me.
Yeah, they're a bit. But yeah. Like, Crunchyroll's app has needed various features, which people have been on them for years. Like, the skip intro button.
Even Netflix anime lets you skip the intro.
Even Netflix does. Even Amazon does.
Funimation doesn't. Funimation
Funimation doesn't?
You need to scan through. As far as I can tell, you need to scan through. Except that because they've got that screen cap feature, it's relatively easy to do.
Yeah,
But it's still not a one button solution the way it was with the Anime Lab one.
yeah.
It really that grinds my gears as well because my preferred way of supporting these properties is usually to buy the Blu-ray once it comes out, and of course on a Blu-ray there are chapter marks everywhere. So
Oh, this
You
all
can just-
reminds me, actually. Did you guys see the Kickstarter for the anime app, which promises free anime for life?
Oh, Anime Tube or whatever.
Yeah.
The thing that was totally a scam, and you could tell it was a scam from a million miles away.
Yeah. But it's legit, you guys. We're talking with, the creators of Ava. The people who don't license their property ever.
Well, Ava itself is stuck in a weird licensing
Oh, yeah, it's stuck in
Limbo.
licensing hell.
because
Is it?
of
I don't know how that property works anymore because it used to be that they would license it to anyone for anything.
Yeah.
That's why
When
they've got
Gun-
merch of every conceivable kind.
That's probably why they're in the situation now where they just can't
I'm
sell
not-
their
The
licenses whatever
legend,
they
the
want.
truly legendary licensing nightmare is Macross.
Oof. I don't think they actually claimed to have Macross, at least. But a lot of it was we're in talks, and by we're in talks, it means they sent them a tweet.
Which was summarily ignored because
Yes.
it didn't make any sense. It was cringy.
So that whole thing lasted a couple of days, and then Kickstarter came in and actually shut it down, which almost never happens. It doesn't happen nearly as often as it should.
Were there people being sucked in by it?
Yeah. Let me actually pop it up. Let me see. Here's a website I haven't been to in quite some time because it is terrible.
Yeah, it was Anime Tube.
Anime Tube, yeah. We got a Kickstarter.
I suppose in a sense it's a. I sort of can't blame them for trying because it is something that everybody wants.
Yes.
It's the situation that people wish was in effect, that there was some place you could go that had good service and had all of the series you want, but unfortunately we've got Sony owning everything.
Yeah, it looks
That's
like
basically where we're at.
they've actually delisted it now.
Yeah, it made over $1 million.
Yeah, it sounds nice. Be able to support the anime industry without all the nonsense restrictions we've got to put up with the current big
But
boys.
that's what Crunchyroll had promised in the past.
Yes.
But that didn't withstand contact with reality.
Yeah. And the other
But, I
option
mean-
is Sony
Well, no, because Sony owns Crunchyroll and Funimation.
and Funimation.
They are operating a straight down the line classic monopoly now.
Mm-hmm. So there
Well,
is
the-
room for another player in that market.
There's not room for another player in the market. There
Yeah.
aren't any leftover properties.
Yeah, that's the big issue. Is you got to get your properties, and you got to get around Sony.
Like, if it wasn't so thoroughly entangled with the legal system of multiple different countries, it would be a straight up antitrust suit straight away.
Cut and
Because
dry, yeah.
there is no legitimate venue for obtaining that media in English. The problem is that because that media has multiple outlets in multiple different countries, technically speaking, there isn't a monopoly. There's just a monopoly for all practical intents and purposes.
Yeah. Why,
Oh my
Ari?
goodness.
I just flicked
Wow.
over to our the direct messages. Why are you sending
Oh.
me these cursed pictures?
I just, sometimes I want to terrify you.
I'm going to block you on Discord if you keep this up. Good grief. I'm not even going to share
That's
this because it's just
Is
too
it worse than
cursed.
the Pepe shit?
I'll enlighten Vol.
It's worse than the Pepe shit?
It's, yeah.
Oh my, that's new.
Just
Oh,
why?
Is that garlic?
I think
Like,
that's
what is that?
artichoke hearts.
Ah.
I'll post it in the live show chat for people to get a good, nice
Yeah,
view.
I think you might have to at this point. So be warned, cursed content incoming. Don't
Put
say
that
we
behind
didn't
a
warn you.
spoiler tag. What are you doing?
Because he hates our audience is why.
Can you spoiler tag an image?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
I can fucking remember
Okay.
how offhand, but I
Yeah,
know you can.
go figure it out, you heretic.
I think it's like you just post it and then tick spoiler when you post it.
Yeah, there's that. I think that was how you do it.
I'll figure it out. Wow.
Good grief.
Why would you do this, Aristeele?
Because it's hilarious. Oh,
Like, how
Marcus
do you
spoiled
even
it.
find this stuff?
I just go on the farms.
Oh,
Oh.
that explains a lot.
Like, the answer to your question is I went on the Donald or I went on the farms for most of the crap I dig out of the internet. But I just want to, while we were talking about Crunchyroll, I went to Crunchyroll's website. They are so proud of High Guardian Spice. Their upcoming big announcement thing for it was written by guest author. They're so proud of it.
Oh no. Who's the guest author?
Nobody wants to take credit for this.
Guest author TM. Okay.
Incidentally, I found that I could visit Kiwi Farms the other day, but I'm sort of scared to.
Yeah, because you'll
Because
get
I
on
don't know what
all
the
of the lists.
Yeah, I don't know what the government will do to me if I spend time on Kiwi Farms.
You don't know because nobody ever comes back.
I mean, I don't particularly want to spend time on Kiwi Farms, but it's interesting to note that I can go there now.
Yes. It's a
I
trap.
don't know.
It could be.
I
Like, the government gets more authoritarian by the day.
All right. Where were we? So yeah, I think we finished talking about anime apps. There's a few.
the top comment for the highest Guardian Spice article: when your own subscribers are being upvoted saying "OMG, I can't wait," said no one as the most upvoted comment.
Yeah.
You might have done goofed.
Remember
An
the
interesting contrast though is if you look at a Twitter thread promoting it, it's full of white knights.
what's this? Because it's Twitter.
It's because it's
Yeah.
Twitter, obviously, but it's sort of interesting seeing the contrast.
But remember when they first announced it, just how negative that result was because they weren't really talking about the actual show.
No, they didn't talk about the show at all. You didn't know anything about it. The
No.
only thing that they told you was that the writing team was incredibly diverse, being comprised entirely of progressive women.
It's progressive white women.
That's how you do diversity.
That is how you do diversity.
You make sure you select from exactly one race and one particular way of thinking exclusively.
So yeah, that went over like something really unpleasant when it first launched. I'm actually amazed they didn't just quietly drop the project. I thought they had.
That would have been the smart thing to do.
It would have been the smart
But-
thing to do.
Well, they had
maybe-
already spent all the money on it.
Yeah, so
and
sunk cost.
I think it's. I don't think that sunk cost justifies it by itself. Like, I don't think that that's actually the reason. I think that the people involved feel that they are doing important work as opposed to good work.
Yes. Oh, my phone just binged. I forgot I still have the Pikmin app beta installed, the closed beta. Every day it tells me to come back and do something, but there's nothing to do.
The threads I read on Twitter regarding High Guardian Spice were incredibly cringy, though. Like, it was anytime somebody objected that it was basically, oh well, this is just a knockoff of Endro and Little Witch Academia,
But,
they would get dogpiled by people who were alternately saying that, oh, you anime avatars always say this as though that makes it wrong, or something like, oh, didn't you know that Little Witch Academia is also about LGBT representation, but you didn't know that? Because
Nobody
you're
knows that
stupid.
because it's not.
Like, everything was such a stereotype.
Yeah.
The every reply was just this cringy
The cookie
mess
cutter.
of all of the responses you would expect some empty-headed progressive to give.
Mm.
It's like the NPC meme writ large.
That's my thought was High Guardian Spice is okay, but like ignoring all the other nonsense, you look at the actual show and it's like, why would I watch this when I can go watch Little Witch Academia?
Wow, I don't think I've ever seen so many people in Final Fantasy at one time.
I know, right?
Very busy in here.
There are queues, and there are always queues. Even at the quietest time of the day, there's queues to get on the servers.
Yeah, I had a queue and I logged off in the Gold Saucer because honestly I spend most of my time in the Gold Saucer these days.
Oh, don't go to Limsa. Your computer will scream.
No, I don't intend to go to Limsa. Unfortunately, it's got my free Aetheryte location is in Limsa.
As is mine. Oh, no, actually, my home portal is in Limsa. My free Aetheryte, I think it's in Gridania.
My home portal is Gridania. I was always glad that I made Gridania my home because although it's got an obnoxious layout that makes it hard to get what you want, it's also very quiet. So
Yes.
you don't end up with parties very often.
Yeah, it's like there's people everywhere in there, but you know, usually you teleport into Gridania, and before even the main screen loads up, you're being serenaded by anime theme songs. Seriously, it's like you go in there, and every time, doesn't matter what time of day it is, there's at least one bard standing around playing some anime theme song.
Well, I mean, they're bards. Playing music is what bards do, or at least it's what they do in Final Fantasy and every other setting. Bards seem to be just some sort of weird utility class, but
Yeah,
do you actually play music in Final Fantasy?
you can actually play
14?
music. But yeah, and it's always the theme of whatever the big anime of this season is, and then they'll switch over and inevitably play something from Undertale because, of course, they do.
You mean they'll play Megalovania from Undertale, and that's the only thing they know how to play?
Either Megalovania or the main theme.
I refuse to think of Megalovania as being from Undertale.
It is a very, very catchy piece of music.
But it was like that Brisket Girls theme before then.
Yeah. Thing is, in order to actually get that theme song to play in the game, you've got to play the game basically wrong. So,
Well, you have to play one of the 3 canon routes all the way to the end.
you play the
do
genocide
hardest one.
route to do it, yeah. So you kill everyone to get it.
Which seems like the appropriate response to this world that's trying to tell me to be nice to everybody.
I've never played Undertale, and honestly, the amount that people talk about it just makes me want to play it less.
Oh yeah, the fandom ruined it. Absolutely ruined it.
For me, it's in a similar boat to Danganronpa in that that's correct. I called it by the correct name. And that's I hear so much about it that I can't work up the motivation to play it.
Yeah.
But seesaw effect.
Yeah. I played through Undertale while I was actually unspoiled, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, a lot of things are like that. Like
But-
I feel like I got to actually enjoy Neon Genesis Evangelion for what it was because I watched it before knowing anything about it.
Getting the damn robot Shinji.
So I got to see it both without the navel gazing pretentiousness that had come to surround it, and I also got to see it without the sort of like the rose tinted glasses that people see it through. So the overemphasis on the good and the overemphasis on the bad, I was able to sidestep and simply see it for what it was.
Yeah.
And I quite liked it. It certainly left a strong impression on me, although a hefty amount of that impression was disappointment.
I suppose at this point it's also asking which version of Ava did you watch?
The classic one.
Ah, okay, good.
The classic one that was a direct dub of the VHS version to DVD, the first DVD version that came out. And then I bought the platinum version of it as those were released, which was the same thing again, except with some of the grain scrubbed off of the VHS masters and the sound remixed for 5.1 because that was really in vogue then. And currently it seems to be the practice though that every time they convert something to DVD or Blu-ray, the English version will be in 5.1. They'll remix the sound for 5.1, except the Japanese audio track is always in 2.0, which means that the 5.1 is just artificial. They're just doing it to try and be clever.
Yeah. Maybe
Considering I
try
never
and put a
watched
little
Dubs
bit of
in-
value add, or I guess.
Yeah, they've used strange tactics to do that value add though, almost like they don't have any faith in their work. Like I've got a whole bunch of recent anime on Blu-ray, and if I look at it, like for instance, my copy of Bofuri is like this is billed as having also you also get a digital copy with it that you can download from the Funimation website, and it's like,
Yeah, but why
well,
though?
that doesn't really make it much difference since, you know, you would have to stream it and you would stream it from Funimation anyway if you were using a streaming service. I got the Blu-ray so that you can't take away that stuff from me because I feel my in the deepest pit of my stomach, I feel like there is going to be a reckoning with digital licensing at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how near or far in the future, at which point everyone will lose everything that they have that's only digital. Unless they're willing to, you know, pay obeisance to whatever grand power is in charge of this reckoning. And so that's why I tend to buy a lot of stuff on physical media. But yeah, I've also got other ones where it seems to be another thing that they will, when you buy the Blu-ray, they just give you a DVD version as well. For all those people who are still using DVD.
Yeah, like Blu-ray never really had the uptake it probably should have, because it was stupidly expensive when it launched.
I guess I buy everything on Blu-ray now, so, and that's
Yeah.
because I've I've had the PS3, PS4, so it's never occurred to me that,
Yeah, it's
that
like
people don't actually have that stuff. It's not like how a DVD player is $30 and every house has one. Like
I think-
DVD players were cheaper than VHS players ever were.
yeah. I think there's something we've missed about Blu-ray, because it seemed like there was a point where it was like everything was coming out on Blu-ray, and then all of a sudden, nothing was coming out on Blu-ray.
I guess the only thing I really look at is anime, and anime transitioned over to Blu-ray relatively seamlessly, except for the fact that when you buy the Blu-ray, you still get the DVD with it.
Yeah,
And I don't know why. Like, I guess they don't want to go to the effort of marketing two separate versions or whatever. But unfortunately, that means that there are weird foibles where I say it's seamless. It wasn't seamless. There are things along the seam. And the thing that grinds my gears the most is that for Oceania region, that thing was Unlimited Blade Works.
it's always
half the-
Unlimited Blade Works.
Half the series was done in Blu-ray and the other half was done in DVD.
Oh right, yes.
And I want to murder somebody
Why would you do that?
because I won't buy it. I won't buy it.
No, I don't blame you.
I'll never buy this region's Unlimited Blade Works unless the license gets released and the thing gets redone and remarketed by someone else.
Someone competent. Ooh, level.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
mean, the thing is that I really wanted to like Hanabi as a licensing company
Mhm.
because they were willing to license things without dubs, which is ultimately what I want. Cheap
Mhm.
Blu-rays with no dub, because the dubbing industry in the West is basically moribund, and they release maybe one decent dub a year. Tops. Probably
Yep.
less than that. And so I would just rather not support that industry. I want it to die and then sort of rebuild organically from people who are actually talented as opposed to people who have paid their union dues.
We just need 50 more Rising of the Shield heroes that the people in the Union won't touch with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I'm surprised that got done. I don't know if they lobotomized the script. I'm still salty about Dragon Maid, even though I really like that. I won't buy it because I know that I would be funding somebody to radically rewrite a script to suit their agenda.
It'd be even worse than somebody. It'd be Jamie Marchi.
Yeah, Jamie Marchi herself, that particular land whale scumbag. But yeah, that Hanabi kept dropping the ball because they didn't have any production or commercial skill. They just had a lot of love, which is in the real world not enough. So yeah, I do have quite a few of their releases that I managed to pick up because they were selling things without dubs, which is what I wanted. And a lot of but unfortunately, they now have a lot of properties that are on lockdown, and therefore are not going to get remade unless they release them. And I don't know. Their legal people probably won't let them release them until the license expires, if in fact it ever does. So I don't really know how that's going to work in the end. I would love to buy Unlimited Blade Works, but I can't, and it makes me angry. No, I can't. My OCD will not support having half a series on Blu-ray and the other half on DVD. I'm sorry.
But the Blu-ray DVD thing is pretty common now. Like, it doesn't matter what you buy. A lot of main movies, big main movies, I should say as well. You buy one version and you get both. I guess. Yeah, like producing a DVD itself costs nothing, basically.
Yeah.
So instead of having, a long string of people coming and returning copies because they bought the wrong version, which happened a lot, just, spend 10 extra cents and package them together.
Not even.
I don't know how much money it makes them, because there is a certain amount of bureaucracy involved in doing that. But yeah, maybe it works out for them.
Yeah, I guess the bureaucracy of doing that is probably less than the bureaucracy of handling the refunds.
Yeah, it could be. I've never had to get a refund for buying the wrong version, but I have had to cancel orders in the past.
Yeah.
Because I ordered it only to immediately realise that I had the wrong version.
Yeah.
Leap of Faith is open.
I want to go back to Foundation, but there's no Grand Ace right here. I am Salt. So anywho, that was my week, and which tangented wonderfully.
Well, that's good, because mine won't. I didn't do anything.
Bombfish.
Anyway.
Why does this exist?
I don't know. I do not know what this is.
This is the bombfish. It is a bomb, but it's also a pufferfish.
I see. I don't remember a lot about Stormblood. Like, I was playing... In fact, the reason I don't remember a lot about Stormblood is probably because I was playing it too hard at the time. Like, I went through the story so fast because I was so excited and I was enjoying everything. But as a result, I blazed through it so quickly I don't really remember much of what took place. There are certain things that really, really stood out, especially that final battle and some of the fight against Susanoo as well. That was really legendary stuff. I found the some of the primal fights were a bit antagonizing because they just seemed... Well, there was one in particular that seemed very arbitrary in the way it was set up. Oh, what was it called though? What's the hotkey for the Duty Finder?
You forget.
I'll just hit buttons until it comes up then. It's U. It's
yeah.
U. I don't... There are new icons here and I don't understand what I'm looking at. But, what was it called? Right, Emanation. Yeah, Emanation was a very strange fight. A very, very strange fight and kind of creepy. It's got very Sessho and Kiara vibes to it. But yeah, it was it felt a little bit arbitrary, but the other fights in the story really stood out, and apparently they've really built on that now, and there's like a legitimate fight in the new patch coming out where you pilot a mecha and fight a kaiju.
I see.
They've just decided to go all in on things that people love, as opposed to pursuing some highfalutin creative vision known only to the writing team.
Cough, Blizzard.
Their writing has been so incompetent lately. Oh my goodness.
Awful. Even more incompetent than their usual incompetence.
Yeah, they've gone from making continuity gaffes to just making outright mistakes in plotting and characterization. It's like, oh, we should have done it this way, but we did it this way, but we're committed now, so we'll just continue being bad.
Yeah.
I've never had to queue so long for Leap of Faith before.
Leap of Faith.
Now to spend the next 10 minutes failing miserably.
Yeah. But I have to admit, I am really curious as to what they do with Endwalker, because they escalated things a fair bit for for the last expansion, and now they're going to escalate again. Like the trailer for Endwalker is here's the Warrior of Darkness, and he's on the moon. Just why? I don't know what you're doing, Square Enix, but I am intrigued.
Yeah, I thought the stakes had gotten pretty high by Shadowbringers. It seemed like the universe was going to end or something.
Again.
But yeah, I don't know where the moon comes into it, or how direct it is as a sequel, or whatever. I don't know. Wow, there are so many people here.
Yeah, it's like it just looking back, even Square Enix has basically taken everything that WoW had. Like WoW, even if the content was mediocre, they still had the best cutscenes in the game. But they don't anymore.
Well, no, because those cutscenes are too expensive.
Yeah, but you go and watch the intro cinematic for Stormblood, and it's like 5 minutes long, and it's just hype all the way through.
Remember the Inzoth final battle cutscene from WoW?
Oh, that was disappointment on a truly legendary scale. Like, why did you spend all this time building this guy up only to have like give him the death of like a C-list Dragon Ball Z villain?
Yeah. They did some great things early on when they really started playing with the in-game cinematic technology, particularly like Wrath. Like Wrathgate was fantastic for the time.
Well, the problem is that when they were doing that was them being creative with the tools that they had available
and telling a coherent story.
Well, this is quite aside from the story. I'm talking about production here. They were being creative with the tools they had available to them in production terms, but nowadays their production goals are to execute things on time and under budget.
Yeah,
they're not focused on production of quality content. That's not the goal. That's not what they're after.
It's like the old business adage of you can have 2 of 3: cheap, fast, or good.
Yeah, well,
pick 2.
Anybody who's ever worked in a corporate organization knows that you will be expected to do all 3 at all times, in all places and circumstances.
Yes.
And if you ever point out that that's physically impossible, you will get growled at.
Yes.
Oh man, this cutscene is even worse than I remember.
Oh.
You rewatched Nzoth, did you?
Yeah, that's...
Oh, why?
That's so bad.
Yeah, all I can say is, there is just one glimmer of still creativity at WoW, which is basically the whole lower thing. Basically, their Baron Samedi XP is still great.
Well, as a bit of foreshadowing, there ain't going to be much left at WoW if the Blizzard keeps exploding.
Oh, the exploding is glorious.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. I feel almost like I'm contaminated even talking about it somehow.
Yeah.
Like everything that is happening there is gross. In fact, the only person in Blizz Activision I feel I can rely on is our boy Bobby. Because in the end, you know where he stands on every topic, and it's with the Monios. You can count on it.
He needs another Death Star.
Why is that crab on fire?
But yeah, I guess what was my week? My week was not very productive. It was ILCP heavy week at work, which ILCPs are what we are required to do in order to uphold our accreditation as a laboratory, which means that there are synthetic samples that are supplied to us that we have to test and then submit our results, and it will be tabulated along with the results from every other similarly accredited laboratory in the country so that we can see where our performance lies on the standard deviation. The result of that is that means that they supply you with a lot of positive samples for every test imaginable for a given sample matrix. So you end up with a huge amount of work to do for samples
Is
that aren't
it?
real.
Are they just testing you on accuracy or also on speed?
They aren't testing you on speed, although you do have a deadline. But because there'll be multiple tests per sample, you can't submit before the slowest one is done, obviously. So, yeah, it's they aren't testing you on speed per se, but in a sense, they are not testing you on accuracy either, because the right answer for a microbiological test is determined empirically. They don't set a right answer in advance, though they know roughly what the answer will be. The actual, so to speak, right answer is determined empirically. So that's why I say that you are looking at the standard deviation and you want to be close to the central tendency. It is assumed that the average result is the correct one. Well, not necessarily the average, depends on the test, but the average you can say in colloquial terms will be the regarded as the correct result, and that's where you want to land. But the upshot of all this is that I was very busy at work, because when you're doing microbiological testing, the ideal result is 0. When you're talking about food products and environmental testing, I mean, that would be bad if you're in like the cheese industry or something, because it would mean your culture was dead. But when you're doing compliance testing, 0 is what you want all the time. So the bulk of our testing does come through as zeros, and our workload is calibrated based on that. Except ILCPs throw a wrench in the works, because usually about 3/4 of samples for ILCPs will be positive. And some tests have very elaborate tests required to do formal confirmation. The only advantage is that you can bend a lot of the rules for ILCPs because they're internal testing. The only thing that matters is what you submit to the company arranging them. So if you need to do shenanigans in order to get the testing to work, you can do shenanigans. If you have to use media that's one day expired or something because it would take too long to produce more, well, I mean, nobody's going to tell you off because they're internal testing that won't be audited, that sort of thing. So there's a huge amount of work, but you don't need to follow the strict letter of the rules as firmly, because there's no consequences for failure. Like if I make a poor judgment when I'm deciding on which results to release for listeria testing, listeriosis has a 20% to 30% fatality rate. So if I screw up, a lot of people will die.
Yeah, not the sort of thing you want getting out into the public.
But that's not the case for ILCP, since they're synthetic samples that don't relate to a real thing. So I can bend the rules a bit, but you didn't hear me say that. The upshot of all that is that I've been too busy to do much. Or it's not so much just that I'm too busy as I am too tired from working at a frantic pace all day, every day. So I haven't really done very much. I finished off the rerun of the previous summer's FGO event and began the new one. I had 0 luck on the tickets that I threw at the Musashi banner, but Musashi wasn't really my focus anyway. I mean, she's an extremely good unit, but I'm not American, so my affection for her Stars and Stripes bikini and cowboy accessories is not quite as high as a natural born American's might be.
Love me some cowboys.
I don't.
So, but I am a fan of Oki. She's one of my favorite characters. So I thought, well, I'll try at least, and I didn't get her. But well, her banner will be back in. Maybe next year I'll try for her, depending on how things go in the gacha. But the event is pure cruelty. Like the previous year's summer event is notorious because it has 3 points ladders instead of 1. So it's very grindy. It's very brutal. They backed that directly onto a mission structure event, and mission events are also very grindy because they require killing specific numbers of specific things and achieving specific numbers of drops, thresholds, and so on and so forth. So this is a rather torturous thing to bolt onto the back of an already famously grindy event, but they did it, and there's no no getting around it. So you just got to make the best of it. The fortunate part, I suppose, is that this year's summer event is the Vegas event, meaning that you are in every quest you are wagering some hundreds of thousands of QP, but getting a heavy return. So playing this event enthusiastically will help you build up quite a decent cushion of QP for skilling up your servants. So unfortunately, it's also an aggressively time-gated event.
Yeah.
So fortunately and unfortunately. Fortunately, it's aggressively time-gated, meaning that you don't feel as compelled to just play because you'll hit the time gate. And then it'll be like, well, there's no real reason for me to keep playing because I'm not progressing the story.
Yeah, they hard limit the QP. You can go over the necessary amount towards the next goal.
Yeah, towards the next goal, yes. You'll still keep getting that QP, though. So that leaves the sort of impulse that it's still okay to keep farming because you're still just going to be harvesting a huge amount of QP. And the time gates that we're up to currently are the return of QP per AP is still better than, on average, is better than the doors for most people. People who have exceptional luck, maybe the doors will still be better, but for most people, it's not going to be. So,
I've got like 100,000 QP out of this event already.
The what now?
I've got like 100,000, I think, already. Maybe more.
Out of the event?
Yeah.
100,000? What do you mean 100,000?
100 million.
Okay, I was like, what are you even doing? How have you even managed to get that small amount? Like, all of the quests drop more than that. But,
all the quests cost more than that.
Yeah, I'm up to, I haven't been counting how much I've acquired, but I'm up to 442 million QP now. So it's a very helpful event in that sense, and honestly, I'm wondering if there was a trend to increase the amount of QP that events typically reward, because there have been other events recently as well that have had extra QP awards, and I hope that that's the developers attempting to address the fact that everybody gets stuck in QP hell all the time. If you're the sort of person who skills up lots of servants rather than just one or two favorites, you are going to spend a lot of time in QP hell. But yeah, I'm pretty much the only thing that I do when there's not an event running is farm doors because I need QP. Always need QP. The event itself is quite fun, but it seems more and more when it comes to summer events, like the game has those gag stories have gotten to the point where pretty much everything that happens in them is like some kind of reference or meme or something.
The Wyverns meme makes a return.
Yeah. See Wyverns. They got very excited about Wyverns. And
they got very shouty about the Wyverns.
Yeah. They're very keen to fight the Wyverns. But
were they actually Wyverns?
No.
Of course not.
It was a single chicken.
It was called like Las Vegas Wyvern.
No, it was just called, I think it's called Wyvern with a question mark.
It's just a chicken.
Yeah, it was just a chicken. Literally a chicken.
Oh, wow.
And the chickens are from the previous event where they were called Vorpal chickens. But yeah, it's I've enjoyed the event. It's not quite cohesive story wise as the Dojin exhibition event was, but it's still fun. It's full of gags. I personally find the Jean and Raiko gag to be a bit tired. It's a little bit too cringy, in my opinion.
Boobs.
No, it's not about boobs, although anything involving Raiko is going to be
inevitably about boobs. Yes.
But it's to do with the fact that Raiko's neurosis, her mental defect as a part of being a berserker, is her excessively maternal tendencies.
Oh.
And her complete inability to draw boundaries on maternal love.
Mama Raiko.
Yeah. The thing is that Jean Summer has a similar version of that, except that she is obsessed with the idea of being big sister,
Right.
and so she tries to collect siblings. Since there are so many Jean faces, she already has a family because there's, Jean Alta and Janta.
She's almost as prolific as Sabers.
But she's also hell bent on collecting the Master, the player character, as a sibling. And there's an entire story arc in this event based on her attempt to do that. And your attempt to try and counteract her big sister power by employing Raiko's mother power as an equal and opposite force.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Yes, it is a terrible idea.
Right.
But the problem in question is so silly that only terrible ideas need apply.
Well, I suppose it was established reasonably early on that the Chaldea Master is not the greatest brain case going.
I think he's just easily carried away.
Very.
I think it's not so much that he's easily carried away; it's the situations he's in are so. Oh, I just ran up to Wyvern ?
Yes, but there's a difference between getting swept away with a situation and then actively poking that situation with a stick.
I mean, if you're in Chaldea with the characters that he's surrounded by, can you really blame the guy or girl?
Yeah,
I mean,
sooner
if you
or later, I suppose, you do just kind of give up and just, give in to the nonsense.
If you can't beat him, join him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's good a time all the time.
yeah, but it's a bit of a clown fiesta, which is sort of, I suppose, in a sense, it needs to be, because if the story was just Lost Belts all the time, it would be way too heavy. And
Clown
in fact, they
Fiesta
would probably
They would
probably lose their impact to a certain extent as well. I think, because I think a lot of what lends weight to the, in some cases, almost farcically dramatic happenings in the Nasuverse is the fact that the Nasuverse is so light-hearted anytime it's not being serious business. That contrast is sort of what lends it its weight, and that's what they're really playing out here. So, yeah, Vegas is a thing. The next banner went up. I'm a big fan of Meltrillis, so I was hell-bent on getting some copies of her, and I had to spend quite a bit of quartz. Not all of it, but quite a bit. But I was able to be blessed by 3 copies of her, which is good, because while I was trying to obtain Oki from the other banner, I ended up getting another copy of Fion, which puts him at NP4. I hate Fion. But he is like, at present, he was the premier arts lancer.
He's still a horrible horn dog.
No, he's never been, because he's a happily married man.
Oh, yeah.
You're thinking of Fergus.
I am thinking of Fergus.
Yeah, you're thinking of Fergus, another Irish hero. You could be forgiven for thinking all Irish heroes are horn dogs. But Fion is one of the exceptions, in that he was happily married to a fae, I think. I think his wife is a fairy. But
jeez.
But he is also the lord that Diarmid served and stole his fiancée.
I see.
So, well, that was the whole problem with Diarmid, right? That was his story, is that he was too handsome. He was cursed with the love spot.
With the magic mole.
Magic mole.
Yeah, the magic mole that makes people arbitrarily fall head over heels for him. And he ended up stealing Fion's fiancée. But at any rate, the thing is that Fion is still... His characterization is incredibly inconsistent, because what we know from Type Moon lore is that Fion was the victorious servant in the Third War that took place in Apocrypha, I think. I think.
Fion in Apocrypha? I'm gonna have to look that up.
In the Third Grail War, the one where the Grail was stolen, or I'm not 100% sure, but I know that in one instantiation of the Third Holy Grail War in Fuyuki, it was won by Fion. He was the winning servant, because he's actually incredibly powerful and incredibly broken. Unfortunately, in FGO, his main appearances are as a joke character in a lot of events, where he is just like a flamboyant, idiotic king. and his original launch animations when he came out were so bad that he became a joke because he basically had a spear that shot a water gun.
Oh,
And that was
yeah.
it. He was just a terrible implementation of a heroic spirit in terms of allowing them to continue to carry a certain amount of weight and dignity that allows them to have an identity as a heroic spirit. But because of that inconsistent characterization and the way he typically appears, where he's just incredibly smug and annoying, I don't really like him that much. So I was a bit hacked off to get another copy of Fion because I would rather use Meltrillis Summer as my AoE Arts Lancer. So in order to counteract that and somewhat justify not using Fion, I was fortunate to get 3 copies of Lambda Meltrillis. So I'm happy with that. Haven't leveled her up yet. We'll have to get around to that. It's going to take a lot of embers. I've burned through most of them. I was also in the process of doing that. I got 2 copies of Bunnytoria. So there goes all my luck. I think that's the desire sensor at work. Because
Cut her feet off.
Yeah.
Get some lucky Artoria feet.
I don't know if it works like that. But at any rate, yeah, so I've got a couple of copies of her. I don't know how long it'll be before I level her up because I just feel like I don't really need her that much. I've got NP2 Amakusa, so if I need an AoE buster ruler, I've already got one, and he's got quite a bit of utility. Compared to Bunnytoria, who in her current state is a bland beatstick of an AoE ruler. Her attack stats are really bad. Even in light of the good multipliers that rulers have, her attack stat is so poor that her stats are sort of Jean distribution, which is fine for Jean because she's a purely defensive servant, right? Everything she does is defensive and support. But all of Artoria ruler's skills are offensive, and her stat spread is purely defensive. So she's got these enormous steroids built into her kit to try and make her damage passable. But since her entire kit is built to attempt to offset her statistical disadvantages, that means that in sum, her character is incredibly bland in combat. She's just not useful because the only thing she can do is put damage out, and that damage isn't remarkable because it's all compensating for bad stats. So yeah, at present, she's just a kind of useless ruler whose only redeeming factor is her durability. Well, I suppose this is also the opportunity for the Racing meme of being a useless bunny only good for her sex appeal. But yeah, so in a sense, it's always thrilling to pull a 5-star, except sometimes that 5-star is useless. But she doesn't remain completely useless because at some point in the future she gets an interesting skill, an interesting addition to one of her skills, and that's that she gets a skill that allows you to nominate another member of the party whose command card simply won't appear for 3 turns.
Oh.
Which is incredibly useful if you're trying to stop your Scardy's command cards from continuously showing up and screwing up your Brave Chains. So she is not without use entirely. However, she is difficult to use because as far as utility goes, once she gets that skill, that's the long and short of her utility. She's a sort of servant who's basically enabled by the existence of Merlin to have any role whatsoever. And so she can serve passably as a hose for Merlin to push damage through. And that's pretty much it. The big FGO news for the week largely came from the Japanese server because it's their new anniversary event. Whichever year they're up to, I don't even remember. 6 years now, I think? Not sure. There are a ton of updates, including the new segment of the story, the next part of Lost Belt 6. But release of a bunch of new servants and a ton of strengthening quests and a ton of new game systems and so on and so forth, and a new version of Kaleidoscope. So well, basically that doesn't solve the problem because the Kaleidoscope that everybody wants is the Kaleidoscope that's currently in the game, and that will remain the case. But they released Wizard Marshal, which is basically Kaleidoscope for supports, because unlike Kaleidoscope, where all of the stats are weighted into attack, which is what makes an MLB Super Scope effective, these ones they're weighted all into defense. So it's useful if you need to, say, prevent your whatchamacallit, your support from getting one shot by crits in the first round, which apparently happens a lot in tough story battles these days on the Japanese server. But yeah, it does offer another means to get that 80% NP gauge start up to 100 at max limit break. So that's upset the meta a bit. But you could also view it as being now your chance to get an actual Kaleidoscope has reduced even further, because there's yet another 5-star in the pool. But yeah, so the headline release for this announcement, servant-wise, is that Koyanskaya is finally summonable for people who want that evil witch. But certainly an interesting design, which I feel sort of encapsulates her curious character quite well. So for those that don't know, Koyanskaya is basically, I get the impression she's not actually a Tamamo, but she masquerades as a Tamamo the entire time. And, looks identical to her, but she's not, I don't think she's actually a Tamamo. I think she just looks like one because her behavior is inconsistent with a Tamamo. But she is the CEO of NFF Services, which is a filthy, amoral PMC in the Type Moon setting.
Oh, that can't possibly end well.
Yeah, she's she's an evil private military contractor who will do anything for some dosh. And
also, that's the last thing I think the universe really needs is another evil witch.
She basically will take any job and work for any cause, and she hates humans generally, and she's a malefactor towards you almost all the time. But she will join your side if it is either profitable or convenient or amusing to do so,
or imperative to her own survival.
Yeah, occasionally that's the case. But yeah, so she's joined, and a lot of people feel that she's power creeping on Merlin. Let's digest that statement for a bit.
Yeah, she looked kind of nuts.
But basically, she's not power creeping on Merlin. I'd say that she's almost exactly parallel to Merlin, which is still incredibly corrosive to game balance, because having one Merlin was bad enough. But basically, she doesn't bring anything to the table defensively. And what Merlin's primary power is, other than creating buster crits, is allowing you to sustain in very, very long fights because of the constant regen and NP gen. What Koyanskaya does instead is that she's just all damage up front. She basically allows you to 3-turn with Buster Servants if you have double Koyanskaya available and a 50% charge Buster Servant. Basically, you can 3-turn with it.
Yep.
So she's all power to the front guns because she can forcibly reduce skill cooldowns, which is something that she inherits from the Tamamo heritage, except she does it a lot faster. But yeah, you're really enjoying that spoiler button, aren't you? But yeah, so that's going to distort the meta around it, I'm sure, and people will come up with lots of things to abuse it with. Although it's sort of hard to tell how much of an effect that will have, because they've introduced mechanics where you can have more than 3 enemies at once. So, in theory, that's going to substantially increase looping for the arts and quick styles. So, this is basically we're going to move into a new meta where looping is available to everybody. So, presumably that means that they're going to design around that to some extent, such that whatever ridiculous advantages Koyanskaya brings by adding Buster Servants into the ability to 3-turn is probably going to get counteracted by some other design direction, which could probably have really bad effects in the long term, depending. But yeah, so a lot of people have been waiting for her, so there's a lot of excitement about her release. But there also were a ton of strengthenings. A lot of characters that had been left by the wayside for quite a bit of time have gotten strengthenings. Artoria Lily got a strengthening. Mozart got a strengthening. Ozymandias, Matahari, Anne Bonny and Mary Read, Kirstam Hassan, Cersei, Leonidas, Ku Alter, Ku Prototype. Jean Alter, for some reason, needed to be more powerful. Mephistopheles. Irish Kagal is now incredibly powerful.
No, it's going to be worth it. I had a feeling.
And Hogeki Yoi has gotten an incredible buff as well.
What'd they buff on Hogeki Yoi?
Oh,
Buster Up and Ignore Defense.
Yeah, because she really needed Ignore Defense and Buster Up in addition to Ignore Invincibility and a massive steroid.
And it's on her golden rule for 3 turns.
Yes, so she's an absolute monster now. So pretty much everybody who got an upgrade has become dramatically more useful than they were before in one or another way. Like for instance, as though Jolta didn't hit hard enough to begin with one of the highest attack stats in the game, plus incredible crit damage multipliers, her Noble Phantasm now generates 30 critical stars when she does it, and is increased a notch in power by a third. So yeah, that's pretty bonkers. But I guess one would argue in response to that she really hasn't had a lot of love for a long time. Though I would argue that she didn't need it because she was OP as crap. But yeah. Anyway, so there are new game systems that they brought in as well, which have attracted a lot of excitement and an even larger amount of criticism. Because they're kind of wonky, like everything. They're not as bad as Beast's Footprints, I'll say that much. Which is not hard. Being better than Beast's Footprints is not hard. Have you even been using them, Ari?
I put some on some quick cards for Dante's, I think.
Yeah, I've just been dumping them all evenly across all of Kiyohime's cards, and that's probably what I'll continue to do with them, because it's such a trivial improvement. And it takes so long to make a difference that's even noticeable.
Nobody talked about them leading up to their release in NA. And so I didn't know how they worked, so I had to go look them up when they started coming out.
Yeah, nobody talked about them because of the difference they make. Even at maximum, if you are very, very, very patient and you collect all of the footprints and you put them all on one servant, or even on like the appropriate cards for a servant, you will still barely notice a difference.
But the new system is nuts with the grails.
The new system is expensive. Very expensive. So basically they've raised the level cap to 120. But you are still only able to increase it by 2 levels per grail. So to max out a servant requires 10 grails. However, they also require coins. And these coins are very, very, very difficult to get. And the biggest criticism that this has attracted is that this limits the system pretty heavily in the direction of whales. Because one of the primary ways to get the coins that are required to upgrade servants is by pulling the servant from the gacha. And a lot of people's favourite servants are 5 stars because, of course, they saved the people's favourite servants for 5-star releases to make the demand higher so that people spend more money on the gacha. But yeah, that basically means it's going to be very hard for a lot of people to get certain coins. Now, there has been talk of certain coins becoming available by means of events, but how that system will be implemented, I don't think even the developers have a clear image yet. Also, the cost in terms of embers is staggering. I've heard that it's some or nearly 500 5-star embers or something to go up 1 or 2 levels. It's very, very, very grind intensive. What I'm hoping this means is that it very, very much is supposed to be a labor of love, and that they aren't going to design around the assumption that anyone has made any progress on the system. So that anything that you do using the system is purely a bonus. They have been a bit inconsistent about sticking to that particular posture on various things in the past. Like when it became obvious that they had started designing around everybody having Merlin, despite the fact that's blatantly not true, because Merlin had taken over the meta in such an aggressive way. But yeah, so the servant coins are mainly obtained through getting new copies of the servant and through bond levels. So if you really, 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 really want a servant to be improved using this new system, you're going to have to make sure that for the 2 years between now and when we get it, you never take that servant out of your party ever, because you're going to want that bond 15. Additionally, you can use the coins to unlock new passive skills, and the new passive skills are the main one that people are interested in is the second passive skill, and the second passive skill is NP starting charge, which at rank 1 is 10% and at rank 10 is 20%. And this basically means that any kaleidoscope will work as a MLB kaleidoscope, albeit without the stats, once you've got that skill unlocked. And this is what most people are most interested in, and the one that is most likely to get unlocked on their servants, whether they are grailed or not. The other skills, the first skill is a improvements to all of the attributes of the extra attack, which honestly, its improvements to them are badly needed, since, well, they just end up being kind of cruddy most of the time.
It's kind of a whatever. It might push over a damage threshold in some encounters.
Or maybe
That's
get you
about
that
it.
extra 1% of NP that you need, or, you know, that type of thing. But this improves them, although I feel it probably doesn't improve them to a meaningful amount. And the third skill varies between servants, and it's usually at least loosely associated with lore, except that all of the berserkers got cheated out of good ones. All of the berserkers have like 20% crit damage resistance against a particular class or something like that, which is essentially useless, because it doesn't matter whether you crit a berserker or not, they still gonna die. But yeah, so I'm very disappointed in that particular vector, but there's still time for them to change it because it hasn't really seen a lot of play yet. And I don't understand why there is crit resistance as one of those skills, because crit resistance, it's true that it is a very, very important mechanic where JP is now in terms of encounter design, because critting is so prevalent amongst enemies. And in fact, it seems that most people have arrived at where I arrived at, 2 Lost Belts ago, which is where the, enemy number 1 is having your entire front line crit out of existence in the first turn. It seems that that's the reality for most people now on the JP server, because enemy crit rates have gotten so high. So crit resistance is very important. However, it's not important enough to justify blowing an entire passive skill on it, and for only 20% at that, which is not enough to matter. So, yeah, I don't really understand that. I hope they redesign it and come up with something a bit more interesting, because that's kind of sucky, to be honest. But, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. At any rate, I like having further development for your favourite servants, and since the first one in line for me is Kyo, and she's a 3-star, I will have access to a lot more materials than most people to upgrade her to ridiculous levels, because I need her to replace the Raikou that I never got. But yeah. So yeah, the interesting thing is that it'll be coming in 2 years for us, but in the meantime, got to keep grinding away at Vegas. But yeah.
Yep.
I didn't really play any other video games, despite my intentions to the contrary. I did not manage to play any Monster Hunter stories, and I did not really manage to play any Final Fantasy or anything like that either. because I'm too tired. Too tired of being an adult. Too exhausting. I am attempting to book some actual holiday time to visit my parents, so I will at least be able to relax then. But in the meantime, it's nose to the grindstone. Things down in Dunedin were sort of falling apart, so I don't know for sure that they're not going to send me back down there again, but our lab manager is very resistant to the idea because him being instructed to send his staff to help Dunedin, it basically made his life a living hell because we can barely cover our own work requirements, let alone somebody else's. So hopefully that means that I won't get sent away again. But yeah, so I don't have anything else to talk about. I've not watched any new anime. I've only been keeping up with the ones that I've been currently watching, which are mostly complete garbage isekai. Like, my goodness, it's bad. This season is so bad. Every show is exactly the same as every other show, and they're all isekai. Ugh. Hopefully, we're reaching the end of that arc, much like we did with Moe in the early 2000s, where for a few seasons every show was Moe, and now nobody does Moe shows anymore. So we'll get there in the end, hopefully, unless it's a symptom of some other cultural artifact that is moving on its own timescale. In which case, we might be stuck with it until that resolves itself. Anyway, so that's me. I guess I will pass over to either a break or to an Ari, depending on what direction we're going with that.
Well, we can't go to a break because Fern is away.
I thought that might be why he hadn't spoken. So I guess we will go to Ari then.
Well, we can do a tangent on the FGO stuff to keep the theme going while Fern is away. So how can I describe my week? Well, we can do the FGO stuff. So I've been FGOing a little bit on and off. This event, despite how ridiculous it looks when you first look at what you got to do, because another mission event, it doesn't actually hurt that bad in practice because of the time gating.
Yeah, and also the fact that I haven't attempted to finish a single mission that wasn't a QP goal yet, and yet I've still cleared more than 60 of them.
Yeah, I've still got like every mission that's ever popped up. Although I'm currently struggling on the Merlin, Saber Lily, and Rama fight because I went into this fight without the damage bonus CE equipped.
Yeah, I haven't even attempted it. I don't really see the point unless I can get the MLB version of that to make it easy. I don't really want to take the risk because there's still a harder one than that to come. And the amount of HP you've got to deplete, it's like three servants with 2 break bars each of which has like 600,000 hit points or something. So sounds like too much of a headache to me.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to lose this one just because I forgot to equip it. But yeah, there's that. I did get Musashi. On the way though, I was getting worried. My first few tickets in a 10 pool, I wound up with 4 Osaka Behemoths.
You took all of my ones. Why would you do this?
It's not my fault. Actually, it's a lie. It's probably all my fault, but
it's always all your fault.
So I've been also playing Princess Connect a little bit because Abo wants me to play it with him. And
are they idolers?
Yeah,
that seems to be the only thing that can ever motivate Abo to play something.
It's published by Side Games, so of course it has Idolmaster crossover.
Well, it's quite early in its life cycle, so I wasn't sure whether they would start that just yet, or whether they would wait till it went into a lull in popularity and use that to boost it.
Oh, it comes out next year, I think, the actual Idol crossover. But there's a whole guild of idols, idol princesses. So that's where he gets his Idoru fix from. But he has been incredibly angry at me because he's got to experience my gacha luck with their 11 days of free 10 pulls because it's Side Games.
Oh, damn gacha luck. I swear.
So there are not that many 3 stars out in the game. They have 1, 2, and 3 stars as the starting stars, but everybody can go up to 5 stars in that game. And he has got to experience me getting every single 3-star in the game except for 4 of them. Back to back to back while he can't get one.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is something that I became accustomed to a very long time ago. It's just the way that things are.
Yeah.
And I think my luck in Pinecone is even more ridiculous than normal because I really don't care about Pinecone.
Ah, so you have the desire filter working with you this time.
Yes.
Oh boy.
So I've pulled like all the most OP perm characters from the gacha, including the limited Summer Tamaki that's out right now. So yeah. That's all I've been doing for gachas. We've been going really long, so before I talk about the actual stuff of my week and we jump into the Blizzard news, we should probably go to a break.
We absolutely should. Alright, so let us check out. We will be back in a few minutes.
And we're back.
We are, and things almost caught fire and exploded behind the scenes. That was
Yep.
fun.
We think it's okay. Fern, it is still broadcasting, right?
Yes, it is. That bit's fine. It spiked badly for a moment and then came straight back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
I'm actually running on Wi-Fi at the moment temporarily, so I need to just be a little bit careful with it.
So yeah. So where were we? Oh right, we were stalling for time until you got back, and we were going to jump into my week, but I'm not sure how much detail I can go into with stuff I've done.
Weren't you?
Yeah, I was Metroidvania-ing over the last 3 weeks.
Right?
Because I remember you were playing that game. Whatchamacallit?
Ender Lilies and Vigil, yeah.
That's the one.
It's a name.
So Ender Lilies was the first one I played. So Serathis brought this one up, and it had been on my radar for a while, but I hadn't touched it yet. So I went ahead and scooped it and played through it, and it was fun. It's well put together. I'm not sure I like the soul mechanic in it so much, just because it feels like a lot of souls don't get used. Because what's realistic, they give you all these nice fun souls to use as equipables, but what realistically happens is you find the ones that are good for utility, and you find like the 2 or 3 early on that you like for damage, and then you don't switch to any other ones.
Right.
So you just wind up accumulating this pile of abilities you never use because you're only allowed to equip 3 to 6 at a time. So I just kind of felt bad for all the souls that I rescued that are sitting in my inventory never being used. I'm like, sorry guys,
You just chill.
there ain't enough souls in the game to level all of you up either. So I gotta be picky.
It's hardly sporting.
But I like the level design. I like the generic upgrades you got. The 3-way split at the end where you can go any direction that you want was handled fairly well. It's just a fairly solid Metroid style game if you're looking for that. I don't really have any major complaints about the game, but it also doesn't, other than its art style, it's a very pretty game. There isn't really any highlights for it either, but usually people that like this style of game don't care too much about the nitpicks and just want more of it. So if you're looking for that, it's got that in spades with plenty to do. I 100%ed it. I got all the Chivos. Didn't take that long. Took about I've got 20 hours. Most of that was active playtime, so about 15-ish hours to 100% the game. So good 15 hours to spend your time. Worth $15. Although I think they're asking for something like 20 or something. Yeah, they want 25 for it. But 25, that's about right. Good time with Ender Lilies.
Well, I mean, what is the difference between these types of games where you give a review that's lukewarm like that and where you obsessively play the game over and over again like Hollow Knight?
Hollow Knight has a very specific game feel to it that adds a whole lot of other elements that expand things like combat into a level of depth that games like this just don't put the extra mile and the effort into. You just don't get the same kind of crisp gameplay feel that you do in Hollow Knight and Ender Lilies. You don't. It doesn't have the same type of replay value with new ways to explore. About the only thing you can do differently between replays of Ender Lilies is you could go one of 3 different directions at the split and go tackle some bosses out of order. But it doesn't actually change that much of what you would do in the game. But I'll obsessively play Hollow Knight over and over again because post Mantis Lords, you can do anything in whatever order you want. And the combat has enough depth to it that you can find new ways to play the game with new badge setups. However you want. Ender Lilies tries to replicate the badge system from Hollow Knight, but I think it missed the mark on what the badge system's supposed to do. It's supposed to be like a free respec talent tree, and that you can build yourself to play a specific way. But Ender Lilies kind of tries to do that, but the badges just aren't powerful enough. They needed a bit more oomph behind them to achieve the same effect, if that's what they were going for. Like, you have ones in Hollow Knight that, like, double the spell damage you do. And make you play a spellcaster build. But in Ender Lilies, it's like, slightly increase the damage you do while attacking enemies in the air. That slightly is 5%, by the way. Not going to matter in the long run. So, yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on either one of these games because we're already running long. But I do recommend Ender Lilies, if just for the art style and it's more Metroid stuff. And if you like that style of game, finding good ones that I don't have a whole lot of nits to pick with is pretty hard. And I just don't have a whole lot of nits to pick with it. It's a finished game, it's put together good, and it's a Metroid style game. And everybody that plays those just wants more of them. So, there you go with that one. The next one I want to go into is one I have a lot of nits to pick with. And that is Vigil the Longest Night. So, you know how some video games are clearly inspired by another video game?
Inspired
So
or
much-
a ripoff?
So if you took Salt and Sanctuary and Bloodborne and you locked them in a room together and said you're not leaving until you have a kid, Vigil would be the kid that comes out of that relationship.
Right.
And for better or worse, this game just includes mechanics straight from Bloodborne, specifically Bloodborne 2. Not any of the other Souls type games, just Bloodborne. Whole cloth from Bloodborne. Whether they work or not, whether they fit in a 2D environment or not.
So it is a ripoff. Sort of.
So you get things like a stamina system for all your moves, which is fairly standard in these games. You get your bonfires, which are owl statues. Even the weapon upgrade system is exactly the same as Bloodborne's, the weapon and armor upgrade system, where you collect fragments and then shards and then whole crystals and then a big super crystal at the very end of the tree, and you have to pay in increasing amounts every time you upgrade, and it costs more each time. And these are progressively harder to find, and the top tier only drops in the very end of the game. Like, just a whole lot of weird stuff. What I do like is the level design. I think the level design in Vigil stands out a lot. I about had an absolute aneurysm when I realized the game had China stickers on it, but I was then relieved because it's not actually from China. It's from Taiwan.
Ah.
So it was from actual China, not West Taiwan.
Oh dear.
So the game, when it plays, all of your moves have this weird clunky wind up on them that I just don't like very much, and it makes the game much harder to recommend. Ender Lilies I can recommend because it plays like you would expect these type of games to play, and anybody can pick it up and play it on normal or hard difficulty and have a good time. Vigil does not. Vigil plays much clunkier, much slower, and just has a heft to everything you do. It's very hard to describe without having it in front of you to show, but there's a slight delay on every single action, and it's all governed by stamina. And unlike Bloodborne, where you can eventually manage your stamina to a point where you can perform a rather ridiculously long chain of consecutive actions, in Vigil, you can't ever get to that point. You're just going to get stuck. And you'll run out of stamina after doing like 3 or 4 things and have to stop and recharge it. And the only thing that doesn't consume stamina is the basic walking animation.
Oh, that's annoying.
And it gets even better because the one mechanic that they've come up with for their combat system that isn't cribbed from Bloodborne is the exhaust mechanic, where If you dip below your maximum stamina, you go into exhaust, and you can expend stamina in the exhaust meter. But if you hit 0 in that, you get stunned, huffing and puffing on the ground, and for the next 10 seconds, all damage you deal is halved, and all damage you take is doubled. Yeah, kind of a clunky system.
Hmm.
I mean, I can see what they were going for, but it's all in the implementation.
Right.
Yeah, it just doesn't work especially well with how fast the enemies move. If they had just stuck to their strengths with their level design, I think it would have been a much more enjoyable experience. But they just love Bloodborne a little too much. The skill trees are much of a muchness. I don't feel like they're necessary at all for some of the weapons. They just gate out being able to use a weapon until you've spent like 4 or 5 points in its skill tree to unlock its basic abilities. Just little stuff like that I just don't think is thought out very good. It's passable, but super clunky is about what I would give it. The level design is hard to talk about without being able to just play through the game and show it to you. But they do a real good job of mashing the maps together and making the world feel interconnected like a cohesive place. They do good checkpointing. They do good upgrades for exploration and stuff. And in general, it just feels really good to go through the world. There is one missable item in the prologue, as usual in these type of games. And if you don't get it, you gotta wait till New Game Plus to 100% the game.
And to make it do that.
To make it worse, it's a voucher for a room item.
Okay.
That you can decorate your little room in town with.
But nothing particularly useful.
And to make it double worse, to get it, on one screen in the upper right part of the prologue map, there is a doctor. If you die or leave the screen after zoning into this screen, he will disappear. You have got to make your way up to him without dying and talk to him. Twice. In a row. Even though most NPCs give you nothing for doing so. There are a couple missable BS things like that in the game that I missed on my first playthrough. One of them is a weird doll for your room, another room item, that after you get through the prologue, but after you kill the second boss, no, you have to complete this side quest before killing any bosses. And then, after you kill your first boss, you have to go back to the tavern and talk to the lady again. And you talk to her until she starts looping her dialogue. And then you have to go kill your second boss. But before you kill your third boss, you have to go back to the tavern, talk to her exactly twice, leave the tavern, go back in, talk to her twice more, and then she gives you the doll. But no more than twice the first time you talk to her after you killed the second boss. Otherwise, she'll get stuck in a dialogue loop and won't give you the stupid doll. How did I figure this out when there's no guides for this game? Trial and error. Lots of trial and error. 2 hours of trial and error, in fact. It might be this one quest is the reason I'm being harsher on Vigil than I would be normally on this type of game. Because this really, really ticked me off. Kind of obtuse garbage is that. But I did it. I 100%ed that one too. It says 46 hours, but most of that time was spent AFK at the top of a sewer, letting a really high-level enemy respawn continuously and roll itself to its death to channel EXP into myself so I get the reach level 161 achievement, which is about 120 levels over what you'll be at the end of the game. So I just left the game open and let this one enemy roll itself to death and commit suicide over and over again and just funnel me EXP.
I see.
So the actual
Doesn't really
completion...
sound like a value add, TBH.
No, this is just for my OCD and needing to complete the game. So took in reality about for 2 playthroughs, 30-hour game. They're patching it constantly. This is a team of like 2 people that's making this game, from what I understand. But Yeah, the story's just as cryptic as all the Souls games. No, I don't have a clue what any of it means. There isn't a VaatiVidya out there who's making lore videos on it because nobody's playing this game. The only people I've seen talk about it are Indie Mouse, and he made a joke video about it. So that's been the 2 games I've played. So about over the course of 3.5, 3 weeks, 35 hours to get through both of them. So money spent. Vigil is really expensive for what they're asking for. They want $20 for this game. That's a bit of an asking price for as clunky as the game is right now. I would probably wait for a sale on this one. But if you like this type of game, getting the good for the average person, 15 to 20 hours out of this game for $10 to $15, probably not bad. Just be aware you're getting into a rather clunky experience. They keep promising a new patch. It's in beta. You can download the beta version if you want, although it crashes all the time. Also, while I'm thinking about it, Windows has introduced a new feature for people that have monitors of differing aspect ratios and resolutions. So I have I have the same aspect ratio, but I have a 1920 by 1080 monitor for my second monitor, and I'm having a total brain fart on what my main monitor's resolution is. 2560 by 1440 for my main monitor. They're the same aspect ratio. There's a problem right now with Windows where borderless windowed mode doesn't work. Nor does full screen most of the time. Because what will happen is if you put the program on your bigger monitor, it'll spill over into your second monitor. So there's a fix for this, and this has continued in every single game I played. I thought it was just Scarlet Nexus back a little while ago. It is not. It is, in fact, every single game on Windows has the potential to have this problem now after an update. So if you're fortunate enough to have Display Fusion, download the function or find something that has a similar function to remove borders and size to full screen for a windowed mode application. Activate that. Push that button again to deactivate it. This will let you drag the window around if you couldn't already, and get the maximize button to become clickable. Click the maximize button and then remove borders and size to full screen again, and it should fit on your main monitor.
That sounds unnecessarily wonky.
Yes, it is. So, those are my single-player experiences. Serathis should be happy. Talked about the Ender Lilies. But yes. That's from last time we read that one already. That's the new one. So, I don't have any more single-player vids to talk about. Have I watched any anime? I don't think so. Nothing, nope. I put a few reruns of anime on in the background. I've been keeping up with Hero Aka, but that's about it. And I don't think there's anything worth informing people about that show in particular, or any of the stuff I've rewatched that I haven't said already.
Hero Aka at least seems to kind of go in cycles. Like it'll do a serious arc, and then it'll do maybe a hype arc. It just did the hype arc. Now it's doing the serious arc.
Well, it does
the tournament arcs.
Yeah. Well, that last one was more or less a tournament arc.
I wouldn't. I haven't been following it, so
we got a training arc right now.
Well, yeah, this is a serious arc as well because they're doing all the whole Todoroki family luggage.
Yeah, I kind of hate this part of it. Actually, I don't care about Todoroki's family.
Yeah, I just don't think it's that interesting. Like I know that I haven't been following it, but they were blatantly trying to set up to set it up as some big dramatic factor in his character, but it's just not. It's not that original and not that interesting.
Yeah, it's Todoroki has been kind of around as a good character, but his backstory was kind of there, but never really important. And Endeavor himself was always just kind of off to the side. and
Well,
never
they
really
try to
happened.
they try to make Endeavor as like this guy who meant to do good but just screwed up by getting overambitious, but that just doesn't play that well when I see his character. I just don't care.
Yeah.
There's the toxic fandom of that show is also constantly burbling about the storyline, and they've been talking about it more than any other storyline, and since they are most interested in it, that means that it's probably the worst one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, if
this
Endeavor
is
had
the same
been...
community.
That's
Yeah.
basically the rule of thumb, is fandoms ruin things. Everything.
This is the same fandom that ships Todoroki with his dad, by the way.
Of course they do.
I'm not even joking. I made the mistake of going to the Reddit, and like
Why?
half the art was Todoroki and his dad
What?
in unambiguous shipping mode.
Why?
Just why? Are people that degenerate?
Because
Wait, yes.
they are. They are absolutely that degenerate. Otherwise,
No.
that game I linked you on before the show would not be in the top new and trending on Steam.
Can we not? Anywho,
Right.
yeah. No, as I was saying, if Endeavor had been more, central to the storyline, this would have probably had a bit more impact. But he wasn't.
Yeah, I can see a world in which what they were doing was like it was pulled off a bit better because, ultimately, with All Might gone, he's the one that has to fill the gap. But that storyline really only works if Endeavor was already central to the story.
Yeah, or at least just secondary to it, not the guy in the
Like,
corner.
the thing is, yeah, he's like a tertiary or quaternary character.
Yeah.
I know that they've sort of upgraded Todoroki from tertiary to secondary character, and then they're trying to pull him into the main cast now. The way that they've redone their key art and so on to put him sort of front and center as a major character, but that doesn't automatically promote Endeavor's position necessarily.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So they might be setting something up with his missing kid, the one that's supposedly dead. But I just don't know where they're going with it.
I don't think, is he dead or is he just missing? I don't know.
They've
been very vague about
language was ambiguous. On Honest Bob's subtitles that were not Crunchyrolls, it was ambiguous.
it. Yeah, Crunchyroll, I think they just say gone. Oh. Well, I just made a terrible mistake.
What have you done?
I poked a giant floating jellyfish. It tore my face off
Well, why would you do such a thing?
because there was bonus XP.
Oh,
All hail the Sky Whale.
Yeah, so lesson learned, don't play with jellyfish.
I've just been playing Kafakur in the Gold Saucer for the last 10 minutes.
You just want to bop Gilgamesh on the nose, don't you?
I want to boot the snoot.
There's a character also running around here called Urza Fairy Tale. Why?
I don't understand
Yeah.
why people give their characters cringy names like that.
I don't know. I suppose we were all like 13 once, I guess.
Yeah, some of us even named characters things like XX Dark Forge XX.
When they were 13. When I got older, I made the names intentionally cringy, like Happy Kittens.
Yeah. I should really actually go and do the Sheena storyline.
At least I didn't go IR space person.
IR space person. That actually sounds kind of awesome.
Poking at Abo there.
I can't even
So,
remember
yeah.
what I was doing when I stopped playing this game the last time.
So, given that that's, oh, that was his shaman's name, Abo's name. But we have an email,
We
and
do.
somebody else should read it because I'm banned from reading them.
Alright, it seems like this job was forced to me since
I can't read while multi-triple tasking. Also, I do apologise if the stream is wigging out, because my internet just seems to be having a good old spasm right now. What is going on? Uh-oh, did I just lose everyone? I think I might have. I'm just going to throw it to some music and get this sorted out. We'll be back in a moment. Okay, I think we're alive again.
I'm,
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
for-
goodness.
Down.
That awkward silence there made me think
Yeah.
it just died the moment I hit play again.
From my point of view, there was no awkward silence.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was 5, 4, 3, and I think we're live again.
Yeah,
That's about how it sounded to me.
yeah, that's
With
how
no
it was.
no beat.
So, meh. Yeah, sorry about this, folks. My internet just seems to hate Final Fantasy all of a sudden. I don't know why. But as soon as I close the
I
game,
think it's your computer hates everything.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. Discord's starting to make ugly noises again. I'm watching you, Discord.
Okay.
So I'll
Can
just
we at
find
least
something
get through the
else.
email?
We can at least get through the email.
Okay, Ball, go.
I have no confidence, none whatsoever. Anyway, my second attempt to read this email. Dear No Excuses. So I linked a list to the games being developed on the GZ Doom engine. Oddly enough, not all of them are first-person shooters, but if you look at Steam, you can find a pair of free games, Shrine and Shrine 2, best described as Doom, but with eldritchness turned up to 111. Weird, skeletal, profane, insect-like enemies and weapons galore. Lots of stuff crucified or skeletons and whatnot. So the guy decided to make a first-person Metroidvania game with the same art style. Enter Vomitorium. It's pretty short, but only costs $10. It has most everything you want, turning into a small ball to fit through spaces, double jump, dash, swimming. Unlike previous games, this time you have infinite ammo, and every health upgrade increases max HP by 100. In addition, you get heal potions that recharge every checkpoint, but in turn, most enemies hit like a truck. So yeah, if you want to fight a bunch of naked crucified women screaming at you, go check this out. Serathis.
Let's take a
But I
look
don't
see at
necessarily-
Vomitorium.
So this is
I don't-
like the least effective sales pitch I've ever heard.
Naked crucified women is not a way to start the sales pitch. You include that as a mention of the aesthetics after you made the sale.
I mean, you can pick it as being on the Doom engine.
Let's see, Vom.
Basically, it's based on some particular artist who his work is sort of surreal and Geiger-esque, but or at least that's how he's typically likened. I don't actually know much about him or anything like that, but if his art really is anything like Geiger's art, then it's going to involve a lot of penises. So
Sooner or later, it will. But
I mean, we're pretty close with this one.
I do like the idea behind the kind of the first-person Metroidvania type game. Although I'm not sure where Dark Souls comes into an FPS, but anyway.
Where'd you get Dark Souls from?
From the store page. Dark and arid hellscape, inspired by the likes of Metroid Prime, which was fantastic, and Dark Souls, also fantastic. Vomitorium is an FPS Metroidvania set in an interconnected and nightmarish world.
Where everything is a penis, apparently.
There are some rather suspect-looking mushrooms here, I've got to say.
No. There's just like literally penises. Yeah, this is pretty freaking horrifying, to be honest.
Oh, you actually I've actually watched the trailer. Let me have a look at this.
I was flipping through the screenshots.
Oh, okay. There's lots of hands.
If you want to see the best / worst of what a game has to offer, then you flick through the screenshots.
Yeah. Grotesque, pixel art, da. Let me have a look at the screenshots here.
I posted all the hands coming out of the walls that could be interpreted as penises.
No, those are just hands.
There's no interpretation required. I'm sorry. Everything is here. Some spin on the genitals.
Let me see. As soon as I can get Steam to behave itself, because Discord certainly won't. Here we go. Screenshots. Let's see. Doom and Doomy and says that. Yep, there it is. I mean, yeah. So it looks all right. Aside from all the dinguses everywhere. If you can get past that, then it does look like a pretty good game.
That's a pretty big thing to get past.
There's many, many things to get past. I'm not going to mention...
Is green smoke coming out the end, Fern?
I don't think that's all is coming out at the end. I think that might be a rocket of some description. So, can we... let's look at something else, please.
Practically anything would be an improvement at this point.
Yes. But yeah.
That's a very thick tree trunk.
Thick. Yeah, I like the idea of a game pulling inspiration from Metroid Prime. Because a few more first-person FPS Metroidvanias would be great. Yeah, do them right.
You just don't get them very much. I'm currently working on very, very slowly because I don't have good early first impressions of it. Lost Ruins.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll probably be the next one I talk about.
All right.
I don't imagine I'll get through it anytime soon. Maybe several weeks before I muster the resolve to actually sit down and learn it because it's really clunky. So,
This penis has its own legs.
Is it Mara?
No, it's still attached to a dude. It's just it's got legs as well.
Oh. I see? Yeah, anywho.
I'll keep it in the maybe if I'm really drunk category, Serathus.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing that you play on a drunk stream, I think. Because it will be much more funny and less gross that way.
It is pretty gross. Alrighty.
So, okay.
And I had to tell you this, but the other game he mentioned, let me click back to it so I can get the right details. Shrine. It basically looks like the same thing. Maybe a few less stongs around the place.
Just a few.
Yeah. And without the Metroidvania bits.
Also, just random people being hung in the sky.
Also that.
Oh, I see the giant crucified screaming woman. Anyway. Thank you for the email, Serathis. We got some good news.
We've got a dumpster fire to jump back into.
Do we have to? What are we going to speak of specifically this time?
There's so much to it that's happened in the last week.
Honestly, I'm not sure we can touch it at this point because there's just so much of it, and there are better people out there to talk about it.
Well, there aren't actually. I don't think that we are normal, average people with no legal mind whatsoever, and those people are too scared to say things that don't agree with the state of California. And there ain't enough people saying things that don't agree with the state of California. And honestly, I am going to put this out there and put us right on the controversial page so it can get us banned from YouTube.
Again?
I do not believe any women at all that come with sexual assault allegations if they didn't go to the police as soon as it happened. I just don't believe them. Period. You had the opportunity to go to the cops. You had every reason to go to the cops. Your job would be protected in that scenario, especially in California. You had no reason not to go to the cops if you felt you were genuinely sexually assaulted instead of just being in an icky male environment.
See, the thing is that I'm not even sure that that's actually the allegation anymore.
Yeah,
that allegation, as received by the public witness, I think was just a fuse to kick off a greater purge of Blizzard for non-specific offences.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the specific allegation of sexual assault actually exists anymore. I think that this is down to, oh, look at how bad the culture at Blizzard is. And yeah, sure it is, because the people at Blizzard, a lot of them are scumbags. But I don't actually think there's a central accusation anymore. This has just turned into a sort of a diffuse cloud of we don't like what's going on at Blizzard. And
yeah.
I mean, there's a certain amount of merit to that, but the way we got here, I think, seems very dishonest.
Mm-hmm. Because you had to have some kind of sexual assault claim to get the state involved initially. But
yeah, I'm not involved with the specific. I'm not very clear on the specific mechanics of how the investigation got kicked off to begin with. But presumably there was originally some sort of seed core accusation to justify it. But I haven't heard anything going forward like that says, oh yes, we definitely have evidence that this particular person committed a particular offence on this particular occasion, and we've got testimony of this. That doesn't seem to be happening, as far as I can tell. Instead, we are just saying, oh, look at what the culture is like at Blizzard. This is the sort of misbehaviour that they were involved in. But the thing is that misbehaviour isn't criminal. Getting drunk at work isn't criminal. It might get you fired in certain workplaces, but it's not a criminal act.
Yeah, you can say Blizzard is scummy for letting their employees drink on the job or come in hungover and not reprimanding their employees. That's fine, but that is anywhere near deserving of the level of ass blasting that some people are handing out. Like, I want Blizzard to fall for the right reasons. I don't want Blizzard to fall for BS, basically.
The thing is that that's the way that this is simultaneously the way that you BS companies fall into existence. But unfortunately, that same mechanism is the way that people who do conduct a continuous stream of low-level sexual harassment, and these people do exist, they also have the same principle, which is that, well, it's very hard to be sure a crime was actually committed, so how can you actually go to the police? Because they know where the line is, a lot of these people. When these people actually do cross the line,
Fern's internet died again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it died worse that time.
Yeah, everything keeps falling apart because Fern lives in Australia, and apparently they think that various vermin and dangerous animals make good IT engineers.
I mean, they don't. I mean, a spider can be used to solve all sorts of problems.
I mean, I'm just imagining a Death Adder, a wallaby, a kangaroo, and a spider sitting there in engineering hats looking at some control panel somewhere going, how do we connect these things again?
Is it they're all
Like,
of them are drunk?
Maybe you can solve problems with those things, but I don't know if packet loss is one of those problems.
I do not believe so. Oh, no, hang on. I think it's going again. We might have to wrap this
No, we can still hear you.
show up. Yeah, I'm getting red lights on Discord, but green lights in OBS. That's really strange. Ugh.
Well, I don't have any problem with Discord, and it's usually my Discord connection that drops out before yours does.
Yes, but
Yeah,
as
this
we've
is
established
a-
in the
this is
past,
a
Discord
odd
is made of
problem.
malice.
Yeah,
this-
this seems like a purely Australia side issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can postpone the Blizzard talk and give it another week to fester.
The problem is just about every day that goes past, there is something
I
more
have no idea what
added.
you're saying.
I got pieces of Discord is made of malice very slowly over the course of like 10 seconds.
It sounds like your larynx has been replaced by a banjo.
Beep boop.
So, okay.
I can hear you guys
Um,
fine at least.
We may have to put the Blizzard talk on hold.
Yeah, I think we should.
That was an interesting sentence.
Beep boop. What did you guys actually hear?
You don't have any idea what that sounded like on our end.
No, I do not. And there it goes again.
Oh, I can't even follow the discussion now.
Okay.
Okay.
So Discord seems
So,
to be intent on making me sound like something completely ridiculous, but I guess.
Yes. Yes, it does.
What did you guys actually
So-
hear, by the way?
You said something, and then the end of your sentence got matched with "ah."
So I'm an FPS bad guy who just got shot mid-sentence. Excellent.
Yes. So okay, I do want to do the Blizzard talk because I think people are looking at this the wrong way. But if Fern's internet is exploding, it's not a good
Not a good time.
good run to do it.
Yeah, and I want to rant about my personal pet theory that the whole actual reason behind the fall of Blizzard was that they replaced all of the key non-founder figures with feds.
I'm on board with this.
I'm not even joking. It's
I know
actually
you're
true.
not. There's an jeez.
I'm 100% on board with this. So there's your foreshadowing for next week. We're gonna have to cut this one short. Y'all got anything for us to send us out?
I need new internet. Hopefully next week. Oh, hang on. If it keeps going next week, I'll figure something out. But
Try and figure it out before the show.
yeah, in typical fashion, everything was perfectly fine all week. Not an issue. But
Oh,
as soon as
dear
we try and
me.
do the show, it goes up in flames.
All right, folks. I guess we'll see you next week because of technical difficulties, and we'll talk about all the Blizzard stuff then. Sayonara. Bye bye.